In the Old West, few names evoke as much fascination and controversy as that of Doc Holliday. His steely gaze, quick draw, and notorious reputation have made him a legendary figure of the frontier. Nowhere is his legend more intertwined with history than in the infamous gunfight at the OK Corral. Behind the dust and gunfire lies a tale that intertwines law, loyalty, and the terrifying truth of one of America's most iconic showdowns.
Justice Wells Spicer called Virgil Earp's decision to involve the infamous gambler in the deadly street fight an injudicious and censurable act. On October 26, 1881, exactly 143 years ago, John Henry Doc Holliday joined the Earp brothers, Virgil, Wyatt, and Morgan, on their legendary walk down Fremont Street in Tombstone, Arizona territory. This walk led to the infamous gunfight at the OK Corral. From that moment on, the names of Doc Holliday and the Earps became permanently linked. The aftermath of the gunfight was shrouded in controversy. Some viewed it as a victory of law over outlaws, while others saw it as needless violence. The facts of the gunfight, such as the number of deaths, the shots fired, and who shot first, became less significant compared to its mythic symbolism. A significant source of controversy was Doc Holliday's presence. Virgil Earp, Tombstone's chief of police, sometimes referred to as Marshal, and his brothers Wyatt and Morgan held special law enforcement positions. However, Holliday was a gambler with a tarnished reputation who had argued with one of the opponents the previous night. Holliday's involvement led to tough questions for Virgil Earp about why he sought Holliday's help. The deaths of Tom and Frank McClory and young Billy Clanton that cold October afternoon prompted a hearing to determine if the Earps and Holliday should be tried for murder. Throughout the proceedings before Justice Spicer, Holliday's actions and reputation were scrutinized. Despite this, the defense led by attorney Tom Fitch successfully argued that Holliday was not a central figure in the fight. Nonetheless, Holliday's role continued to fuel both contemporary debates and historical controversies regarding the gunfight. On December 1, 1881, after a month of testimony, Justice Spicer delivered his decision in the case. He dismissed the charges against the defendants, citing insufficient evidence for a conviction. However, he criticized Virgil Earp's decision to involve his brother Wyatt and Doc Holliday, calling it an injudicious and censurable act. Both Wyatt and Doc had previous encounters with some of the Cowboys before the fight. Despite his criticism, Spicer noted that given the circumstances, he could not assign any criminal intent to Virgil's unwise decision. He acknowledged that Virgil needed the support of reliable friends, whose bravery, calmness, and loyalty he could count on during an emergency. The controversy was mainly about reputation. To understand Holliday's involvement and its impact on public perception, it's necessary to review the events leading up to the confrontation. When Holliday arrived in Tombstone in 1880, he was just another well-known gambler among many. This changed after he quarreled with Johnny Tyler, another gambler, at the Oriental Saloon. Milt Joyce, one of the Oriental's owners, intervened to stop a fight between Holliday and Tyler. However, Holliday, who was drunk at the time, later returned to the saloon demanding his pistol. When Joyce refused, Holliday left, obtained another pistol, and came back. He then opened fire, hitting Joyce in the hand and wounding Joyce's partner. In response, the saloon keeper beat Holliday severely. The incident made Doc an enemy of Milt Joyce, who later served on the Cochise County Board of Supervisors. Doc's friendship with Wyatt Earp also turned Joyce against the Earps. After the incident with Doc, Joyce was inclined to believe the worst about the Earps and was in a position to use his influence against them. This became significant later. On March 15, 1881, road agents attempted to rob the Benson stage near Drew's station. In the botched robbery, the stage driver, Eli Bud Philpott, and a passenger, Peter Rohrig, were killed. The robbers were quickly identified as William Leonard, Harry Head, Jim Crane, and Luther King. King was arrested but escaped under suspicious circumstances, while the others evaded capture. Due to Doc's friendship with Bill Leonard, whom he had known in Las Vegas, New Mexico territory before coming to Tombstone, and his admitted presence at Leonard's place earlier on the afternoon before the robbery, Holliday became a suspect. However, no charges were filed at the time. In early July 1881, following a quarrel with Doc, his mistress, Kate Elder, accused him of involvement in the robbery attempt. Sheriff John Behan and Milt Joyce, who disliked Doc, encouraged Kate to press charges, leading to Doc's arrest for murder and attempted stage robbery. Kate was also arrested by Virgil Earp for being drunk and disorderly immediately following Doc's incarceration. Kate's sworn affidavit accusing Doc of complicity in the affair has not been found, leaving questions about its contents. When Kate sobered up, she might have retracted her affidavit. In any case, she was fined, and the charges against Doc were quickly dropped due to insufficient evidence. However, for those predisposed to think the worst, the incident left lingering doubts. Wyatt Earp, aiming to become the sheriff of Cochise County, decided that capturing the remaining Benson stage robbers would boost his chances. He secretly struck a deal with Ike Clanton, who knew the robbers, agreeing to help Clanton earn a $3,600 reward from Wells Fargo & Co. In exchange, Clanton would betray the robbers. This deal was risky, especially for Clanton and his associates due to their connections with the robbers and their allies. Before the plan could be executed, Leonard and Head were killed in June, and in August, Crane, the last suspect, was killed by Mexican soldiers in Guadalupe Canyon. The deaths of Leonard, Head, and Crane left a secret between Wyatt Earp and Ike Clanton, preventing the removal of suspicions about Doc Holliday's involvement in the robbery attempt. In October 1881, Marshall Williams, a local Wells Fargo agent, drunkenly hinted to Ike Clanton that he knew about the deal with Wyatt. Enraged by this revelation, Clanton confronted Earp, accusing him of betrayal and of informing Doc Holliday about the plan. Earp denied that he had spoken of their agreement to anyone other than the original parties involved in the discussions, and he decided to tell Ike that a conversation with Doc would prove that he was completely unaware of any agreement. Doc Holliday was in Tucson gambling, so Wyatt sent his brother Morgan to retrieve him. Before Holliday returned, Ike Clanton left Tombstone briefly, returning on October 25, 1881, with Tom McClory. That night, Holliday encountered Clanton at the Alhambra Saloon and denied knowing about any deal with Wyatt. Their conversation quickly escalated into a loud and threatening situation until Morgan Earp intervened to separate them. Outside the Alhambra, Clanton and Holliday continued exchanging insults until Virgil Earp stepped in and threatened to arrest them both. Ike Clanton then went to the Grand Hotel while Wyatt led Doc away. Holliday retired to his lodgings behind C.S. Fly's photographic studio. Meanwhile, Clanton continued making threats against Holliday and the Earps. The next morning, Virgil Earp, the chief of police, was alerted about Clanton's threats and found him wandering the streets with a rifle. Virgil struck Clanton with a pistol and brought him to court. Despite a sore head and a fine, Clanton remained unquiet. The situation worsened after Wyatt Earp hit Tom McClory outside the courtroom, and Billy Clanton and Frank McClory arrived in Tombstone. Interestingly, Doc Holliday slept through most of the morning's events until his mistress, Kate Elder, woke him with news that Ike Clanton had been looking for him at Fly's. Doc got out of bed and remarked, "If God lets me live long enough to get my clothes on, he will see me." However, he did not go looking for Ike. Instead, he spoke cordially to Billy Clanton on the street and stayed out of the day's rising tensions until he joined Virgil, Wyatt, and Morgan Earp at Hafford's Corner Saloon around 2 o'clock that afternoon. With the town buzzing with rumors and reports from citizens about threats from the Clanton-McClory group, Virgil decided to arrest them. He also chose to include Doc Holliday in the arresting party, giving Doc his sawed-off shotgun to conceal under his long coat while taking Doc's cane to make him appear less threatening. Considering Doc's public quarrel with Ike Clanton the previous night, this was Virgil's first significant mistake. However, he needed someone he could rely on in a fight. The Earps and Doc Holliday then marched down Fremont Street to the vacant lot next to Fly's studio, leading to the West's most famous gunfight. The deaths of Tom and Frank McClory and Billy Clanton that afternoon caused significant distress in the town. When Ike Clanton filed murder charges against the three Earps and Doc Holliday, prosecutors saw Doc as their best chance to make a murder case. During the legal proceedings, prosecutors aimed to prove that the Earp party fired on men who were attempting to surrender with their hands in the air, and that Doc Holliday and Morgan Earp fired the first shots by prearrangement. Despite Virgil's excellent record as chief of police and the good reputation of his brothers among townspeople, Doc became the primary target due to his notorious reputation and confrontation with Ike. The accusation that Doc Holliday initiated the fight with a shot from his nickel-plated pistol did not hold up well under cross-examination or the testimony of defense witnesses. The overall testimony portrayed Doc as surprisingly restrained and controlled on the day of the fight. There was no evidence that he was involved in the events leading up to the showdown on October 26, or that he carried over the previous night's quarrel into his behavior during the gunfight. When Doc Holliday joined the Earps at Virgil's invitation, everything changed, regardless of his behavior. To be fair, Holliday seemed to understand that his role was one of containment. When the Earp party reached the vacant lot on Fremont Street where the fight occurred, the Earps moved into the lot while Doc stayed in the street, positioning himself to block any attempt by the Clantons and McClorys to escape between Fly's and the Harwood house. Holliday did not fire until the fight started and remained composed as he stalked Tom McClory, waiting for a clear shot with his shotgun. After killing Tom and discarding the empty shotgun, he methodically approached Frank McClory. When Frank proclaimed, "I've got you now," Doc coolly responded, "Blaze away! You're a daisy, if you have." Only at the end of the fight, after being grazed by a bullet, did Doc's temper flare as he shouted, "The son of a bitch has shot me, and I mean to kill him." However, the fight was already over, and he did not fire again. Doc's conduct during the fight showed why Virgil wanted him there. Despite his measured performance, Doc's presence exposed Virgil to charges of irresponsibility and misconduct. At the hearing, the prosecution used Doc's alleged connection to the Benson robbery attempt to level more serious accusations against the Earps. When Ike Clanton testified, he not only claimed Doc's involvement in the failed robbery, but also alleged that the Earps were part of a criminal ring with Holliday, and that the street fight was an attempt to kill him because he knew too much. Predictably, Ike denied any deal with Wyatt to betray his friends. Instead, he claimed that Doc, Wyatt, Morgan, and even Virgil had confessed to siphoning money from Wells Fargo and intended to kill Leonard, Head, and Crane to prevent them from exposing their illegal activities. He could not explain why all these men would choose him as a confidant. The defense effectively dismantled Clanton's testimony during cross-examination and further discredited it in their own case. Despite this, Clanton managed to sow seeds of doubt about the Earps in the public mind that hadn't existed before the street fight. Ironically, although the Earps were acquitted, Clanton succeeded in undermining their honesty and credibility, which would ultimately doom their future in Tombstone. The Benson stage robbery and Doc's alleged involvement provided Ike with an opportunity to attack. Ridgely Tilden, writing for the San Francisco Examiner after the hearing, argued against the Earps. Doc Holliday is responsible for all of the killing, etc., in connection with what is known as the Earp-Clanton imbroglio in Arizona. He initiated the fight, and Wyatt Earp and his brothers supported him out of gratitude. Tilden's analysis was incorrect, but the association with Doc Holliday remained the primary blemish on the Earp's reputation in Tombstone before the street fight. In 1926, Wyatt Earp himself acknowledged that whenever his enemies in Tombstone had a chance to attack him through Holliday, they would. He remarked, "They would make a lot of talk about Doc Holliday, as they made Holliday a bad man, an awful bad man," which was wrong. He was a man that would fight if he had to. John P. Clum, who was the mayor of Tombstone, editor of the Tombstone Epitaph, and an ally of the Earps during the street fight, did not like Holliday. In 1929, he wrote to George H. Kelly, Arizona's official historian, expressing that while Doc was a loyal friend and brave as a gambler or in a gunfight, he was not a constructive citizen. Clum added, "I have always felt if he had not been in that street battle on October 26, 1881, the affair would have been relieved of much of its bitterness." Clum's insight was rooted in his understanding of public perceptions at the time of the fight. Virgil Earp's decision to involve Doc Holliday in the attempt to arrest the Clanton-McClory party was, as Spicer described, injudicious and censurable. However, this criticism was not due to Doc's behavior during the street fight. In the confrontation itself, Doc was an asset rather than a liability. The issue was that involving a man of questionable reputation, who had publicly quarreled with one of the men the Earps were set to arrest, opened the chief of police to immediate criticism. More importantly, as Wyatt Earp noted, Ike Clanton, who was actually most responsible for the street fight, managed to cast doubt on the Earps through guilt by association with Holliday. Holliday's involvement amplified the street fight into a significant incident that turned public opinion against the Earps. While the prosecution's argument that Doc fired the first shot was dismantled in court, many people outside the courtroom continued to believe it. Additionally, accusations linking Doc to the Benson stage robbery made it easier for some to believe Clanton's lies about an Earp criminal conspiracy. Doc's loyalty to the Earps helped them win the fight on Fremont Street and other subsequent confrontations in the territory. Conversely, the Earps' loyalty to Doc ultimately proved costly. There is a very interesting picture of the historical gunfight. In Andy Thomas's painting titled Tombstone Turmoil, 4 members of the Cowboys are portrayed: Ike Clanton fleeing, Frank McClory stumbling into the street, Billy Clanton wearing a yellow bandana, and Tom McClory positioned behind a sorrel horse. On the opposing side, the painting depicts Doc Holliday holding a shotgun, Morgan Earp on the ground, Wyatt Earp, and Virgil Earp. This depiction in Thomas's painting captures the dramatic scene of the gunfight at the OK Corral on October 26, 1881, in Tombstone, Arizona Territory. The Cowboys, known for their association with outlaw activities, are shown in a moment of chaos and confrontation with the Earps and Doc Holliday, who were attempting to enforce law and order in the town. The composition highlights the tense standoff and the personalities involved. symbolizing a pivotal moment in Wild West history. The painting reflects the clash between lawmen and outlaws in Tombstone during a period of intense frontier justice. It immortalizes the key figures involved in the gunfight, each depicted in a stance that reflects their roles and actions during the altercation. Andy Thomas's artwork serves as a visual narrative that continues to evoke interest and debate about the events and characters of that fateful day in American folklore. As the dust settled on that fateful day at the OK Corral, Doc Holliday's legend was forever etched into the fabric of American history. Beyond the myths and the movies lies a complex man who stood at the crossroads of justice and outlawry, leaving a legacy that continues to captivate and intrigue. In unraveling the terrifying truth of the gunfight at the OK Corral, we uncover not just a clash of bullets, but a clash of ideals and identities that shaped the West. Doc Holliday, with his grit and contradictions, embodies the relentless spirit of those turbulent times.
Please like and share if you find the video content interesting and useful. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment below so as not to miss the upcoming interesting videos. Thanks for watching.